meeting tonight for the August 13th agenda. The first item on the agenda is going to be the approval of the minutes and meetings from July 16th. And by the way, the members were in attendance was Mary Carlson, John Dagnes, Brian Falk, Mark Cavalier, Charlie D'Antonio, and of course Kelly Capisi. I'll need a motion for approve if you've already had the opportunity to read these and
I'll
review
make a
them.
motion.
Motion by Mary, have a second.
I'll second.
Second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Kelly, I'll sign that off and throw that into the record. We've got just a couple of things on general business to handle tonight. One of them being, we're coming off our summer schedule. Regretfully, the summer will be over shortly. We are going to fall now back into, well, we're going back into September, so our next meeting is going to be on Thursday, the 10th. And I believe from October forward will probably be the third Thursday of each month versus the second, as the planning board meets on the first Tuesday and Thursdays, the first Tuesday and third Thursday of the month. So we try to coordinate with their schedule to be able to pick up anything that any business that may need to.
So starting in
addressed.
October, it'll be the third Thursday?
Starting in October would be the third Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, we have three applications tonight. We have a 7:05, a 7:10, a 7:15. Brian Falk is on vacation. He will not be here. So on the boards tonight will be the five full-time members, and of course, the assistants and the alternates we always have, and always request to have their input as well, any decision-makings at all. So with that, I'm going to shoot over to read the hearing for the 7:05 application. This is on the continued application of Jeffrey Ryder of 3 Julie Circle, Milford, Mass. For a variance of a setback provisions of section 2.4 and/or 2.5 of the zoning bylaw in relation to a 45,192 square foot, more or less, parcel of land located on the northerly side of Julie Circle, known and numbered as 3 Julie. The variance sought is relief in order to erect a 10 by 16-foot shed on a 12-foot by 18-foot pad closer to the lot lines than otherwise permitted. Members of the audience, we pass around an attendance sheet. Whether it's for this hearing or not, we'd like you to fill it out so that we have a record of who's in the room at the time of the hearings. That'd be greatly appreciated. On the application of Mr. Ryder, concerning the question to the applicant, what circumstances exist relating to the soil condition, shape, and topography of the subject premises, which do not generally affect the other land in the zoning district, the applicant response is none. Concerning the question, if there was a nuisance were not granted, if there was a variance not granted, what the hardship would be caused by the circumstances described. The applicant states that we would not be able to get the shed, possibly lose deposit, or up to $13,605 if the shed is not refundable. And concerning the question, state why you feel the grant of the variance will not cause substantial detriment to the public good. The applicant states the grant will allow us to put up a well-needed shed, and I don't know what that says, and influence the usual appearance of the surroundings. Is that what you're trying to say? Improve?
Or enhance.
One or the other, but it doesn't look like it. Jeff, do me a favor. Will you pull the microphone to you or move over to it? That would be helpful. Okay, and on June 2nd, he had, there's a letter here from the planning board that on June 2nd, they voted at that point in time an unfavorable recommendation, and I'll paraphrase it. the building, the proposed location was hand-drawn and not to scale, so that's the reason why that was sent an unfavorable to this board. However, the planning board did review this petition on August 11th and recommends the following, again, unfavorable. Planning board indicated they do not see any hardship and would be okay with a shed to go with 10 by 12. The letter from the town planner, Larry Duncan, indicates that, as you recall, this application was originally reviewed at the June 2nd meeting, at which time you had forwarded an unfavorable report to the ZBA. Due in part to insufficient information having been provided, the applicant has since acquired an accurate site plan of the proposal and is requesting your consideration. As the ZBA has not yet opened the public hearing for this case, the parcel is in an overly irregular shaped lot with easterly side property line at only 30-degree angle to the street. The house, however, was constructed substantially parallel to the street. Use of the rear yard near the house is further constrained given the location of the rear deck and the septic system. Therefore, I recommend a favorable report be forwarded on to the zoning board of appeals. If satisfied, there will be a need for an additional size constitutes the hardship. With that, in your packets, I do not know if the plan we have in the packet is correct, but I believe you have something to provide the board.
Yes, actually, I do. Here is an official drawing, too.
Can we post one of those on the board for the public to see?
Absolutely.
Now, once you pass these out, you can have a seat. Mark, when you got a minute, can you get something posted on the board?
I have one here if you want.
Go get him, Jeff.
Can you post this up here too,
Sure.
please?
I apologize for the original application in my statement that I had said that there was no hardship. I actually didn't understand the way the wording, so Larry helped me out with that. In the Google image that I gave you here, actually shows a really nice view of the side property.
Can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Can you post that and go up and point to me and show us where your house is, so everybody's aware which one's yours? That would be helpful.
This one right here with the red roof,
Okay.
and basically.
That's your house?
That is my house right here.
What's the white line that's with that, Jeffrey?
I used Google to give a distance.
Okay.
That is the distance between the two closest objects on my neighbor's property here. Through the woods, 100 feet, he has a garage, and then about 175 feet beyond that, 75 is his house.
He's dead.
Basically, the most logical place for us to put the shed is right in along the sideline here. I've, since the start of this application, have agreed to bring it out, according to this, 11 feet from the side of the property. So really, I guess what I'm asking for is the variance to have a 10 by 16 shed. The extra square footage, because I'm now, I think, halfway, 10 feet, half the distance from the sideline.
A quick question, your application is asking for how much? What was your original application?
A 10 by 16,
And now you want it to be?
a 10 by 16.
Okay.
Instead of putting it right on the property, next to the property line, I moved it in 10 feet.
Is this
11
shed
feet.
already up?
No,
Well, you brought it in conformance with the zoning laws by giving the 11 feet, which is half of the 22 feet required.
that is correct. Half of the,
He's still over for the
I'm still
size of
over the
shed.
10 by 12.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I understand that.
And I have a lawnmower with the extra equipment that goes with that. We want to put a workbench in there, and plus all the tools, and my wife wants the garage back. So ideally, I actually wanted a 12 by 8, a 10 by 18, but my wife didn't want it that much. So we're going down to a 10 by 16.
So can you show me on this picture where you're gonna put, where you're planning to, would you like to put the shed?
Right where that dot, the first dot starts, right in
Okay,
this
right there?
outcrop, yes.
Okay.
And I wanted to do, I did the aerial to show, and the way G&H showed the tree line and so forth. It's a very thick area in between here. We really are in the country out by Haven Street there. And I strongly feel that it won't be any detriment to, if my neighbor ever decided to sell his property, they're not even gonna see the shed.
Okay. All right, before we bring it over to the public, because sometimes the board member questions can answer something that the public will ask anyway, so, with that, I'll start, Joe, I'll start on your side of the table if you have any questions.
The dotted line represents obviously the setback,
Correct.
correct? On that side, the setback is what, 20 feet, according to zoning laws? Anybody here remember?
On the side, 20 feet, correct, so that's half the distance of
All right, so then you show what, 11 feet?
11 feet, correct, just a little over half the
Yeah.
distance.
So you're 9 feet short of being within the setback.
Of a side property, but as,
9 feet short of it being within regulation of the setback.
true, okay, yes.
In other words, if that was in further, 9 feet further, you would have no need to request a variance.
Right, but then at that point, it runs into the septic system.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that, I'm just
Yes,
clarifying what the distance is and what we're talking about.
Okay.
Now, you say it's described as sitting on a pad that's slightly larger. What is the pad gonna be, a concrete?
stone,
Huh?
stone pad.
Stone pad,
I designed the pad, or want to create the pad slightly larger so that, actually, like in this picture here, I want to create a really nice aesthetic front to it.
Okay.
I presume the photograph of the shed is a shed that you've purchased?
About to, since tomorrow, this weekend is the tax-free weekend. I'm going to take advantage of that. There is a deposit down on the shed.
Charlie?
No, not at this point.
Mark?
Good.
Dagger?
No, that's it.
Dave?
All set.
Mary?
Not right now.
Okay, I'll open it up to anybody in the audience that would like to comment. If you have a question or comment, please state your name, come up to the microphone, or grab the microphone, and address everything through the board, okay? Thank you. Not elected, pick up, you can walk around the room with it if you want, okay? For someone else, you may have to hand it to someone else after that.
My name's Lorraine Todd. I'm his neighbor. My husband's deceased. I have absolutely no problems with him putting a shed. He can even put it closer to the lot line if it's more convenient for him. As he says, we have so much land up there, we can't even see it because my husband had put a garage between the house and his line, so there's no way. And I just wanted to go on record that I have no problems with him. Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mike? What, could you hand that to Michael, please, for me?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Mike Visconti. I live at 7 Muriel Lane in Milford. I am neither in favor of or opposed to this application, but for clarification purposes, I noticed some of the board members were talking about half the setback distance and how it applied here. half the setback distance applies only to sheds up to 120 square feet. Anything over that,
Right.
that half the distance rule does
Yep.
not apply.
Right.
Just for clarification
Yeah.
purposes. But once again, I am neither in favor nor against this application. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. The only comment I really want to bring up, and it's probably a comment that you may want to be aware of going down the road. If you take a look at where your D-box is on the site,
Yes.
you're pretty close to the front of the shed. In any event that that septic system fails, or that D-box fails and needs to be moved, that could impact the shed.
Well, I have no problem. Actually, I put this a little bit farther away from the driveway. Bringing it in 2 or 3, 4 or 5 feet, I have no problem with that.
Now, you have nothing poured there right now?
Nothing poured. And I'm not actually going to pour. We just excavate and put down some good stone so that it can be changed at any point.
Any utilities running through that area that you're
No.
aware of?
None.
So the last question I have is, the site plan that you gave me tonight is different than what you originally applied with, correct?
Yes,
And it's only because it's an accurate depiction of where the shed's being located versus what the other plan showed, which was,
which I hand drew.
which was penned in. So I thank you for that. Does the planning board have a copy of this?
Yes, they do.
And they've seen this, and it's submitted into the file with them?
Yes.
Great, okay. With that, if there's no other questions from anyone, or comments, close the hearing. We'll take it, you have your last word before we close the hearing.
Just that I hope that you find in favor. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Vote on it now?
Sure.
Sure, I motion to approve it.
Motion to approve as submitted,
Seconded.
seconded by Joe. All those in favor from the full-time board members, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Now, you have a 20-day appeal period,
Okay.
which, it's your decision, but you have the shed delivered, and someone appeals the decision, that shed's gonna be moved. Okay? All right.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Thank you. Where's the, August 14th signature sheet? Right here?
Oh, right here.
No, that one, but I'm talking about the approval sheet.
I ought to take a picture of my shed.
Here it is.
Bring it down, Joya.
Was there an alternate on
Yeah.
No,
Panel.
no.
Tony, building inspector at the time. I have enough rooms that's inside, because I live in a zone where sidewalk.
Yeah, I'm gonna sign the plan so that,
So it goes in the record.
it's right into the record.
Yeah, but I built the biggest shed for this.
There's this plan here.
In my sidewalk. It's 12 by 16, 2 stories tall.
Oh, my God.
Kelly, would you open the doors up now? It's hot in here.
But you know, it's funny, where I located it, and it wasn't on purpose, but in the spot where I know it would be functional, then like I say, within a requirement. It's a great big ivy tree,
Okay,
30 feet tall. Nice tree, you look and you find it,
moving right along. Sorry for the delay, there's always a lot of paperwork. Okay. This is on the application of, why don't I have it? Here it is. Ricardo de Oliveira, would you please come up in the front, please? Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yeah, my name is Ricardo de Oliveira.
Okay. All right, when I read the application, then I'll go through the process. This is on the application of Ricardo de Oliveira of 38 Reservoir Road, Milford, for a special permit relief pursuant to the appropriate provisions of the Milford zoning bylaw in relation to a 50,926 square foot, more or less parcel of land located on the westerly side of Reservoir Road, known and numbered as 38 Reservoir Road. The relief is sought to permit the finisher to keep chickens as residential animals within the meaning of the Milford zoning bylaw at the premises of 38 Reservoir Road. With that, on his application, the applicant was asked the question concerning the question is, explain the reasons you assert the proposed use of the premises will not create undue traffic. The applicant states no. Explain the reason that you assert that the special permit sought in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw. There actually wasn't an answer on that. Concerning the question is to explain the proposed use of the premises will not cause harm to the neighborhood or create a nuisance or hazard affecting the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. The applicant states maybe create a nuisance. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the board. The planning board did review the petition listed above at their scheduled meeting on August 11th and voted unfavorable recommendation. The application form was incomplete, submitted a septic system plan, may create a nuisance. Town planning letter dated August 11th. The applicant is requesting a special permit to allow for a chicken coop and 19 chickens on the subject property. The zoning bylaw provides for such resident animal uses by special permit through the ZBA. The application form is incomplete, and the plan submitted with the application is a septic system as-built plan. The proposed location of the chicken coop is not indicated on the plan. Therefore, I recommend a favorable report to be forwarded off to the Zoning Board of Appeals only if adequate information is provided to the property to evaluate the application properly. So, in the folder, and I don't know if everybody's got a copy of this. It does, okay, where's it? You don't have a copy?
No.
Okay, why don't you pass this, there's no copies at all in these?
No.
Okay, why don't you pass those down and they can have a take a look at it. I did review, drive by the property. Give us an idea what you're trying to do. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
We
It's on.
Yes.
we want to raise like you said, I said on application 19 chickens, and we have our land is about 1 acre, 1 acre and 17, right? 1.17 acres, and we can do the chicken coop close to the house this way, and the other side of the septic system is not the same place of the septic system, and I don't know.
And I'm going to make a comment, because I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. When I did the drive-by, I usually drive by the pieces of property, noticing where your neighbor's house was and versus where your house is, where your septic system is. We have no indication whatsoever on there of where you're building this. The chicken coop, number one. And we need clarity on that. Because we don't have it, we don't have that, and the planning board doesn't have that.
And
Pass this down so we can see it on this side?
can I show you where we want to build the
Sure, why don't you
chicken
step
coop?
up and show it?
Yes.
This is your house,
Yeah, this is our house.
this is your septic, this is your D-box, and this is your leaching area.
It's
Can
here.
put it the back here.
Here?
Yeah. Here I have one small shed I put outside. Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Oh.
so you got an elevation
Yes.
difference here, too.
Yeah, it's here.
Okay. You have a shed out there now?
I have one small shed here.
Okay. How big is that shed? Do you know?
Shed?
Yeah.
8 by 8.
You can sit down and go. I just put a pen area there where they think that it's gonna go. And while we're doing that, I'll start on that end of the table.
I only have one question. Is there gonna be any roosters?
question.
John?
It's pretty hard to make any decision. To me, the application process is incomplete at this time. So it's pretty hard to make any judgment on that.
No, I don't have any questions.
Mary?
I couldn't support it the way it is because the application's incomplete. I have no information, so I could never support this.
Joseph?
Yes, I'm still looking. And I think we need a little bit more information as far as where the location of the shed is gonna be.
Charlie?
I'm on the same page.
That's what I thought, okay. Anybody else? Let me kind of give you a heads up. It's not the fact that we're trying to deny this application, but we need more information. So you can make it the decision tonight if you want to continue it. Go down and see the building department. I don't know if you've started there with him or not. Check with him. He'll tell you what you'll need, and then you can come back, and we can continue this hearing if you want. If we vote on it tonight, it won't probably be a very good idea to vote on it. Okay, so I'd rather you,
Dave, why don't you let if any neighbors want to be heard?
Yeah.
well, I did.
I don't think they understood.
No, I don't think they
Oh, you didn't?
understood.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, I thought. Is there anybody else that wants to be heard? Come on up, please give your name, grab a microphone.
Yeah, I'm David Hunter at 69 Camp Street, Milford. I certainly can understand the desire to have chickens and fresh eggs and that sort of thing. And I'm certainly no expert at it either. I just have a few concerns. One being, in that residential neighborhood with a number of wetland areas and abutting those properties, the chicken waste. I'd be concerned, and hopefully you take consideration of figuring out how they're going to handle the chicken waste and those issues properly. The other thing that there's a lot of woodland around us. We're pretty close to Peppercorn Hill. We have seen some predators. There's been a coyote around and that sort of thing. I'd be a little concerned about possibly the chickens attracting more of that and bringing that into the residential neighborhood as well. So those are my just
Okay, thank you.
questions and want to make sure that they're
Right.
handled properly.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else care to be heard? Come on up, step forward, grab a microphone.
I'm Susan Catalano. I neighbor these guys. And I'm at 36 Reservoir, and I have a concern about the noise and the smell. I know on a hot day, chicken excrement is not the most fun thing to smell. And the roosters, I have a concern about that because they crow all the time. They start around 2 a.m. and go on and off from that point on. And it's a pretty big disturbance.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody else care to be heard?
Hunter, 69 Camp Street, also on a butter. Just, to me, it would be a precedent-setting thing, that if you allow them to have chickens in a residentially zoned area, that's going to have to go all the way across town. And what other things are going to come up? Is somebody going to say, the chickens are residential animals, I have a goat? It could keep going on and on. So that would be my concern, that we be precedent-setting in a residential area.
Okay, great, thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Angleton, 34 Reservoir Road. And I would say the precedent setting is one thing I would consider for if you start this, why wouldn't other people request the same thing? I also think there is a smell associated with a number of them and would be concerned about that. So I'd be more on the also nuisance side, although I think the neighbors are wonderful. It's not something I would want to add into the neighborhood environment and set the precedence for doing that. And I do also see that there are the predatory animals in the area, and bringing them in closer is not a desirable thing with the pets and other things that are already in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Again, it's up to you if you want to continue this, go through the application process, properly get this documented, filled out. The plan doesn't show if you've got wetlands on the property, the plan doesn't show the location. you want chickens. This board in the past, it's not something that's, we set a precedence on. It's allowed through a special permit process. We have done chickens, I think, before on the other end of town, one or two of them. And some of the neighbors did have a concern, so I think at that particular one, we may have done a special permit for a year to see how that would have feathered through. I think those chickens are no longer there anymore, because it didn't work out. So it's clearly up to you. We can continue this till next month, but you'll go down and see the building department, and he'll give you a good guide of what you need to do on this plan so that you'll be able to bring something in properly to us, so we can be able to evaluate this better.
Dave, can I just comment?
Sure.
If they go ahead and it's rejected, they cannot reapply for what?
2 years.
2 years. Just let you know that. In other words, if you went ahead and it was rejected, you could not reapply for at least 2 years. Just wanted you to know that. All right.
Okay, so would you like to continue this to the next hearing next month?
Yes.
All right, why don't you come on up and just sign this, and we'll continue it for next month. That hearing date is September what?
And you should, make sure the people know
You tell my wife, we're gonna put some goats down there.
So-
We're gonna put some,
This is continued, so you're not gonna be notified. Make sure you put on your schedule September 10th. The abutters, it's the same thing. This is just continued for more information that the applicant needs to submit to the board to make a proper educated decision. So it's not gonna be advertised again. This is just a continued hearing, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Fisher cat. Fisher cat, I got those things that one. How do you spell this guy's name?
Can you graduate that year, or?
This was the old, I went to Milford High School,
Oh, that's right.
and I think Kenny was a year ahead of me.
I missed it.
How's he doing these days?
Yeah,
Okay,
hey, life was on, and,
moving on.
That's the truth, yeah?
no, you just
On
gotta,
the application of RD Management LLC, 81 7th Avenue, 10th floor, New York. Variance release from the provisions of section 3.9, 2.3, and 3.9.2.5 of the zoning bylaws, as those provisions relate to a large parcel of land located on the northeasterly side intersection of Beaver Street and Medway Road, which parcel has been mostly recently utilized as the Kmart Plaza and is known and numbered as 124 Medway Road. The relief is sought, excuse me, to permit the erection of the use of an internally illuminated freestanding sign having a total area of 420 square feet and having a height of 80 feet, notwithstanding the provisions of the zoning bylaws. Concerning, Joe, what I'll do is, I'm gonna go line item by line item, and I want you to answer the questions based on the line item, and then we'll do a general overview, if that's okay?
Sure.
What circumstances are existing right now relating to the sole condition, shape, and photography of the subject premises, which do not generally affect other land in the zoning district, which that was item number 13. And your indication indicated that the elevation of the site is low. In fact, it is one of the lowest situated commercial centers in the town of Milford. And why don't you pick it up from there and give us some background on that side of it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Joseph Antonelis on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight is Al Rossi, who is the project manager for RD Management. Al is a professional engineer and is very, very involved with this site. Also with me is Tim Sullivan from Barlow Sign, who can address specific questions regarding the manner in which a sign would be installed and erected, et cetera. Mr. Chairman, to answer the question, we believe this is a site unlike any other commercial site in the town of Milford. From a historical perspective, it is one of the first mall-type commercial developments in the town of Milford, coincidental with the properties across the street and down a little way on 109. This particular piece of property is a very low elevation below the existing Sacred Heart Cemetery and below the level of Beaver Street for the entire situation. And then, of course, what you have is the impact of 495, which was built up as it goes along. So while it is visible from the street level, it is not overly visible for the size of the plaza. And we believe that that is a unique feature that is associated solely with this particular parcel of property and thereby allows us to make the initial filing for a variance.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, on the other issue, if the variance was not granted, what hardship do you believe would occur within the site?
Again, the site is a redevelopment of an existing site and therefore stands as a second or third tier choice for many national retailers. Many national retailers today like to come in and develop the site themselves in concert with 3 or 4 other retail partners. You see this significantly in some of the newer developments along 495. If you were to go just off 495 in Berlin on the Berlin-Hudson line, there is a significant development that is a new development. It was a cooperative development of multiple retailers, such as a sporting good retailer along with Lowe's or Home Depot. And in this particular site, a site that has been developed, in fact, twice before, national retailers are not going to be able to get the outside appearance of the overall development that they would like. They come in with a stylistic approach, following the California and Florida models and the models that are more predominant in the states to the south with newer types of architecture, more of an inviting type of situation relative to the streetscape that is created in those developments. We believe that the ability to have a sign that is visible from Route 495 will help us raise our level of tenant up to the next tier to be able to attract a more national type of retailer. I can state that the projected use of the Kmart building at this time is that we have significant interest from a 50,000 square foot retailer and also significant interest from a 40,000 square foot retailer, both of whom are national brands that you would recognize. I'm not at liberty to disclose them. There are confidentiality agreements in effect relative to the negotiations. But I can tell you without equivocation that each of those retailers has asked for a sign for visibility from Route 495. Frankly, they're more concerned with visibility from Route 495 than they are from the traditional street visibility that we ordinarily deal with in our signs. Ordinarily, when we have discussions about signs and our sign bylaws are geared to how they situate and how are they going to attract customers off of the streets that are adjacent to the plaza. In this particular case, because of the location of 495 sitting between 2 exits, something that is unique to Milford and something very important to commercial developers, the ability to have a sign that it can be viewed from 495 is critical to the redevelopment of this particular subdivision. There is a significant amount of financial commitment on the part of RD Development. I don't mean to move aside, but we're getting to the hardship aspects along with it. RD Development has spent over $3 million to buy Kmart out of the lease. Kmart was content to sit in the building and manipulate the entire plaza and manage it as a somewhat second-tier store because obviously it had significant competition from the Walgreens down the street in Bellingham. In order to have any ability to rehabilitate the plaza, RD management was required to buy Kmart out of a lease that had 30 years left in its term. So Kmart could have stayed there for 30 years, and the price to buy them out, and I can tell you this because it's not subject to confidentiality, was $3,100,000. So we start with an initial investment on behalf of the developer to I don't want to use the word get rid of it, a tenant, but to remove a tenant from the premises who was otherwise paying rent, and to do just the opposite, pay them to leave. In addition to paying $3.1 million to have Kmart leave the premises, RD Management is committed to an additional $5 million in overall improvements and buildings to the plaza. If we can attract national tenants, then we can also attract subsidiary tenants that we believe will be of a higher quality and more likely to remain in the plaza for a significant period of time, to pay larger rents, which will increase the taxes for the town of Milford, because as you know, in plazas such as this, rents are based on a combination of building value and the income that those buildings produce. So with two national retailers who can have visibility from 495, we can help assure the long-term stability of this very large site and underdeveloped site at this point, and at the same time, I think, not interfere with the visibility within the town of Milford and the traffic patterns. Mr. Consigli, if I may, I'll go to the next question is we believe it's compatible with the surrounding area and that there would be no detriment to the public. First and foremost, you're going to have a sign that is not going to distract pedestrians and or motorists, because frankly it's not seen from the lower levels. It's seen as a passerby for 495, much as signs are seen on 495 as you travel both north and south on 495. We believe that the presence of that sign, again, will have no impact. The planning board has situated the sign on the site in such a manner that the sight lines of traffic passing to and from the plaza on Beaver Street will not have any visual interference from the signage. Relative to the height, and again, if I'm going beyond what you've asked me to do, Mr. Consigli, I'll stop, but relative...
I'll stop you if I did.
Okay, relative to the height, why 80 feet and why not 65 feet? Why not 73 feet? Why not 59 feet? The reason is that we've conducted a series of balloon tests along the highway over the last 2 months to be able to provide a view shed so that we can have a determination at the lowest point that there is visibility both on north and south. Now, I've got a plan in front of you, and I actually have a set for each member, if I may. The first sheet is obviously the sign. The second sheet is the view shed that has been taken by balloon testing up and along 495.
You dropped my sign, Joe.
So that was already down. I'll pick it up.
You can step on it if you want.
Okay.
Won't help you.
You see, I have both of them on the wall. I hope that the people at home can see it, and I have a larger of the view shed here on my tripod. So the 80-foot height is the height required to create visibility over the existing tree line from both the northbound lanes and the southbound lanes. So we basically have one opportunity to advertise this plaza in a manner that is meaningful for the applicant. You will note that the sign is designed, features the town of Milford. When Al came and talked to me about the sign, I said to him that I felt that the most important thing about Milford was that people know it's there. People passing by on Interstate Route 495 can equate Milford as they look at the other towns. You can see the development of commercial real estate in Franklin, you can see it in Rentham, you can see it in Bellingham. We have lagged behind in attracting new tenants in the town of Milford. Part of it has to do with visibility. When I said to Al, I said, I grew up here, I said, this is a request that is going to require this board to make tremendous consideration. He immediately said, let's put the name Milford on it, which I thought was a great idea. And the sign, as you see, will bear the name Milford Crossing, Gateway to Milford, no matter who else goes on it. That will be up there for the remainder of the time that the sign is in existence. And I believe that taking up that amount of square footage on that sign with the words Milford, Gateway to Milford, is an important part of the partnership that my client is trying to establish with the redevelopment of this property. Again, a $3.1 million commitment to remove a tenant who didn't really care about how the property looked, and then an additional $5 million in improvements. So we believe that there is a significant effort being made by the applicant for the purpose of restoring and rehabilitating this shopping center and providing some notoriety for the town of Milford that we believe is positive and not negative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. With that, Charlie, I'll start with you on this end.
Okay, when I see, so what you're saying is that whoever comes in there as a tenant, right now they're showing 4 areas, so that allows each of the tenants that are in there to get some space on this sign.
That's correct, Mr. D'Antonio. The idea is to have that sign available for the 4 major retailers that we hope to attract. We're not sure of the variety of the types of uses. Obviously, we'd like to create that kind of streetscape mall to have different kinds of users. And, you know, again, we have 2 national retailers, and we're looking, again, along those lines to expand those. But yes, we would have it for the four major tenants.
What's your opinion? I read the planning board minutes and so forth, and one of the issues that came up is that if we allow this, you know, Kohl's and everybody else is gonna come after us.
Well, I think that we can make that statement on each application that has ever come before this board for the entire time that I've been practicing law. And Mr. D'Antonio, I know how long you were on the board before and that you're back, and I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah.
I will say to you that I think this board has the ability to distinguish the applications. And I don't believe that you're gonna find a significant amount of sign applications that come in looking for exposure along 495. The only reason for this sign is to get exposure on 495. Frankly, if we were where Kohl's is, okay, I don't think we'd be making that application because we'd be too far away. You'd be up over the height where you have to light the sign with aircraft warnings. I believe at 100 feet, you would have to place beacons on the top of that sign.
Well, that's a good point, because the point you're making is that your property allows you to have what you can say is the best reasonable height situation with the visibility that you want, and that other retailers in the area would have to go right over the top to do it.
Right over the top to do that.
Okay.
Again, I think it's our proximity to 495, unlike the others, and again, I think we all know the sites in Milford is, being Milfordians, we are really down in a little valley there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it may be relevant or not, I don't know. But on the building itself, how high a sign could be constructed?
Well, Mr. Evans, that's an interesting question, and I'll point out something. If you look across the street at the hotel, La Quinta, there's actually an additional story that was built on that. And La Quinta put a sign on their story, which they're allowed to do under the zoning bylaw, creative work on their part, that's great. We don't have any intention on going that high. So the sign limit, the sign on the building is limited to the height. We can't erect a sign on the roof.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to do them, but I just wanted to know what the height could be if the sign were on the building.
I believe we could go, I believe it's 60 feet in that district, and then we could put a 20-foot sign on top, and we'd be up close to 80 feet.
All right, that's,
I'm just gonna make a couple of comments. Everybody's been hemming and hawing about the height of the sign, and, you know, development has changed over the past 30 years, and clearly development has changed towards the power centers and the highways, and they basically stay away from our neighborhoods. So when you go down the road of a redevelopment, you look up and down 495, whether you go on the east coast or the west coast, this is normal. This is the normal amount of business, the way people do business. Especially when you get into a situation like this. My concern is, and I'll make 2 comments and I'll turn it over to the board members, and I want to be able to come back. The current condition of this plaza is extremely difficult to look at. And my concern is going to be, if we grant something along this line, are we going down the road of another tenant that's going to allow that property to look like that for 30 or 40 more years? Because that particular facility is a disaster zone over there. It looks horrible. It's nice to see that they got out a retailer or someone did not care about how that facility looks. you're stepping up the envelope, you're trying to do the right thing, and you're trying to increase a good image for that development. I agree with you concerning the Coles Plaza. If anything, this traffic would generate additional traffic for other businesses in the community. It won't impact so much, I think, the residents or the traffic because the height is there. The other concern I have is if you do not grab those quote-unquote major anchors, you probably won't put the sign up anyways.
That's correct. There would be no sign, no need to attract for subsidiary tenants.
Yeah, my concern is that the opportunity for when you go down the road of a major redevelopment is that the Milford community have some preference, of course, and it's outside this board's jurisdiction, but have some preference for jobs and opportunities. And I think that's important to recognize when you're trying to do a redevelopment and a makeover of something that is so drastically needed. So, and I agree, I think that four-tenant situation has to stay. The height, I can understand why you're going 20 feet higher. It's clearly visible based on the reports. Any community would probably jump at the opportunity to grab a major tenant to be able to do this, to bring tax dollars into the community and to bring jobs into the community. Our sign bylaws, I think, have a lot to be desired because, they're 30 years older, maybe longer. Some of these adjustments probably should have been made years ago. But it's done by design to keep things restricted and be able for boards to be able to control what actually goes up for signage. So for right this minute, I'll turn it over to Mary while I gather my thoughts on the balance of what my comments are going to be.
I have to say, I agree with David. He said a lot of things that I would say as well. I know if you drive down 495, the Rentham outlets, you wouldn't know they were there if there wasn't a sign there. So, and that's a big draw, that, and I just think the way the plaza is now, it's unsightly, it's terrible. And if we can get someone in, if we can get a couple of good anchor stores, I think it would be helpful, and not only that, but the tax income that it would generate would certainly be a help. Never mind just cleaning up, because it's unsightly. I do it too. I cut through the parking lot because I cut the corner. So it'd be nice to see something in there and have some retail business in there. And if you could do a nice restaurant or something, that would be nice too. I don't think Milford has enough of them.
I think the assessors are probably listening to this meeting, so I've probably cost my client some tax dollars by making these statements, but I don't think he's going to get upset with me about that, so.
Dave?
I don't have a problem with it. I think it's good. I was on the board when we voted for the Lowe's sign, and when you're coming down 495 and you see the Lowe's sign, you really can't see it. And I believe that, people, the way this sign is laid out, the people would see this sign and would pull off and spend money in Milford and do business here. And I think if not, they would drive right by. So I think it is good. I like the fact that someone spent $8 million and they're asking for a sign. To me, that's a positive thing, and I always take the position that businesses are at a disadvantage in Milford with the tax base. So when businesses need help, I think that it's good to give businesses help because they're at a disadvantage and they keep the town fiscally responsible.
Jack?
Just one minor question, Attorney. I remember this gentleman has been at the previous other meetings, and I also believe there was a younger gentleman who came at one.
From the sign company.
Yeah, I believe so. And at that previous hearing, I know the chairman raised a question that he thought his decision would be swayed by knowing the prospective tenants. And I know that's something also that the planning board was interested in. Not that I think it really has anything to do with my decision, but even though there may be litigation with the prospective tenants, is there no information you can give at all as far as prospective tenants?
I can tell you only that they are two nationally known retailers They are two retailers that I believe every member of this board and community will welcome into the town of Milford. And I believe that they will be good additions to the commercial community here. I can say that as someone who was born and brought up here. I don't have any equivocation about that. I wish I could tell you. Frankly, I wish I knew, and I don't. But I've taken the representations of my client. I've spent a lot of time with Al, who has gotten to learn the town of Milford while he's been here. He's been here quite a few times. And I take his assurance that both of these national retailers are companies that you would appreciate having in Milford, and they're not companies that are presently here now.
And just to echo John's comment, because of the last time the sign company was here, there was a couple of irritations done. One of them coming in front of the board for a sign this size and not having any management or ownership representation, I thought was the first mistake that the company had made. That clearly did not, I think, go over well with this particular board or not. As far as the, and I made a comment back then, because a lot of what happened on Fortune Boulevard back then, or even some of the stuff on the East Coast, I've done these type of projects. And I made a comment back then that you don't always necessarily need a sign to land a tenant. But you do when you start taking a look at the demographics and you take a look at the hole that you're in a location like this and the challenge it takes to actually get major national tenants to sign on and commit. And it's a major investment when you have to go down that road to pull those type of big and national retailers, because the synergy effect will then follow with the major other stores in other national chains, although not as big, but small, but will also complement the entire area. So seeing the redevelopment done, number one, I'm impressed with. A couple of comments I'd like to make before I go to Mark so I don't forget. The existing signs that are there now is a concern that I have personally. We've got a Bugaboo sign there, we've got another major sign there. I need to know and have a comfort level that there's gonna be some control of some signage there. We can't have 5 freestanding signs on 109. I know the planning board done their best job to be able to control the entrance and the exits over there, but I gotta get a warm and fuzzy feeling on how you're gonna control the other signs over there, because Bugaboo's got a freestanding sign. We got a bank ATM over there that's got a freestanding sign. Then we've got the other pylon sign that's there. Is that also gonna get a remodel?
I'm going to let Al, hand the mic to Al, because he was
That's
going to
a
address
que-
that.
I need to know what's going on that sign.
The pylon sign on the main road will be totally redone as part of our redevelopment program. We have a site plan approval. The whole site's being redone, and as Joe said, the estimate for Allen and Majors is over $5 million to redo the site, not doing the exclusive of the buildings. There is a sign standard that would be in the shopping center. The national retailers have certain standards. We would maintain certain standards. This would be all part of the operating agreements between the tenants. So it'll be total control by us of what sign is permitted. Typically, what you have at the national retailers, they have their prototypical signage as long as it meets the square footage. And then for the small stores, we would have a standard that would complement those signs. So any small store retailer in the shopping center would be required to have a certain size and a certain look sign.
Okay, but my question still remains. So the Bugaboo location sign more than likely would stay. Whether that tenant changes it out or not, it doesn't matter? So are you saying that that particular location of sign, freestanding sign, will probably stay there?
I don't know the answer of that tonight. I'd have to go back and check the lease of that tenant.
Understand.
As to what our rights would be when we redevelop the shopping center, as to what we can do to that tenant.
Okay, fair enough. Talk to me I'm sorry, Mark, why don't you go ahead?
I just have, most of my questions have been answered already. 2 quick questions. Signs going in the same place where the garden center was as originally proposed, the last 2 times? by Beaver Street?
It's going on Beaver Street, correct. And
So
that's the location, Mr. Calzolaya, was approved by the planning board for site distances, because they were concerned about people being able to see the egress and entrance points coming along Beaver Street.
Cause any more problems with
No.
109, so it's down in that section. Last question, not to violate the confidentiality, which you're saying you don't even know who's going in there. Because everybody in the street is asking, who's going in there, who's going in there? As you probably know,
You're not
right?
gonna know.
I'm asking, it's on public record, if you can answer it. Approximately how many employees will be new hires in this facility when it's all said and done? Does anybody have any idea?
Well, I'm not sure what the retail level is, but I'm presuming with a 50,000 square foot tenant and a 90,000 square foot tenant, that you could take the existing TJ Maxx store and the home goods store, and however many tenants or employees are in there, you could probably triple it. So I think you got a significant chance to add entry-level positions in the town of Milford for retail opportunities.
Sure, most of the townspeople are very happy with that. Thank you.
David, I have another question.
Shoot.
On the sign that you're showing here, you have the 4 tenants. Is that gonna be the total number of businesses in the plaza? No.
Only the major anchors.
So what I'm asking is then, other than these 4 that you show, these will be your major tenants. Will there be further listings of names going all the ways down the sign? That's not gonna happen because that wouldn't be visible from the highway, correct?
One, it would not be visible, and 2, I would have to be required to come back because I've set forth the number of square feet, footage of signage.
Okay.
So the area between, from the bottom of where it says exit 19
Yeah.
down, is
Yeah.
not subject to further signs without approval of this board.
So no cell tower antennas.
Don't believe so.
The only other, what I'd like, before I close the hearing, you know, pictures and signage always look nice, and the color coordinations of the same also make it look nice and pretty. The size of the blocks on the sign where it has tenant larger and a tenant smaller block, here and here, I'm assuming you're gonna need flexibility, because that could be just one whole tenant there?
Correct.
Or it could be evenly divided with the tenants, correct?
It could be evenly divided, or it could be broken into 3 or 4, depending again on the level of the negotiation.
But if we condition not more than 4,
That's not a problem.
you put too much over there and people are
Right,
gonna
no,
be
you
getting in
can't, then you
accidents.
can't, it defeats the purpose.
The other question that I'd like to consider is, at the base of the sign, apparently you can see that I'm trying to work with this. The base of the sign, personally, I would like to see some amazing-looking landscaping, elevated shrub beds, something that will pop and be, you know, an asset and an inviting aspect to get into that subdivision. I mean, into the actual shopping center. When I say elevated shrub beds, I'm talking about maybe some elevated shrub beds, maybe some stonework around it to really make it look good and elegant.
The intention is more to focus on the stonework and low-level landscaping. Again, we had to take into consideration the sight lines on Beaver Street.
Right,
And so we
right.
had some
I
agreements with the
understand that.
planning board relative to the height of shrubs, et cetera. But the intention would be to significantly set the base of that sign off. You'll note that there is it shows a depiction of the stone base on it, and that's the intention.
And I would assume that this particular design of signing could also be the same on 109?
I would think that the intention is to bring this plaza more in line with what we see traditionally now in the newer developments. Al gave me a great education about first level and second level generation shopping centers. We're actually going into the 3rd generation with this plaza, and his intention is to bring it forward. He thinks when they went from the first level to the second level, they didn't really kick it up to then standards, but the intention is to bring it up to the new standards, some of the newer I keep saying subdivisions, I'm so used to subdivisions. Some of the newer shopping centers that you see specifically along Route 9, you go up and see what's going on in Shrewsbury and the Northborough Shrewsbury corridor, that kind of look to try and get that almost like a streetscape approach.
And I'm familiar with the Berlin site. They certainly had their challenges to try and get something major in that town as well with signage, because, you know, commercial is the tax base that keeps the residential tax base down. And I think the best we can do is to try and grab some of the best commercial base that we can. The commercial base is what supports and generates the residential tax base to keep it low. So with that, if there's no other comments from the board, you have your last word. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
I got it, Mike.
I should have recognized you right away.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Mike Visconti. I live at 7 Muriel Lane in Milford, Mass. As your board knows, there are several benchmarks that the applicant must meet in order for your board to grant a variance. Bylaws do not say that if one of those benchmarks is met, then you can grant the variance. It indicates clearly that all of those benchmarks must be met in order for you to grant a variance. With respect to the lot size, shape, and topography, and its uniqueness with respect to other properties in the district, there is nothing unique about this property that is not present in other surrounding properties in the district. As a matter of fact, this is probably the most easily developable property of all the properties in that area. If you check the elevations of the surrounding properties, you will see that most of them are at or below the elevation of this piece of property. The other benchmark is the hardship benchmark. Given the fact that this property does not meet the lot size, shape, and topography benchmark, the hardship benchmark must be based on the lot size, shape, and topography. It is not based on any financial feasibility or viability of the development. Given the fact that this application does not meet the first benchmark of the lot size, shape, and topography, then it cannot meet the hardship benchmark. That's two down that this property application does not meet. With respect to the sign, please keep in mind that not only is the sign height well in excess of what is allowed, but the square footage of the sign is far in excess of what is allowed. Your board, Mr. Chairman, is probably used to dealing with sign variances that exceed the allowable square footage by maybe 10, 20, 30%. And that, in some cases, you have considered to be extreme. This sign will exceed the square footage, the proposed sign will exceed the square footage by over 150%. That, to me, is excessive, and I'm sure your board will determine that that is excessive also. That's three down. So far, the application has not met any of the standards or benchmarks that are required in order for a variance to be granted. Finally, does this application derogate significantly from the purpose and intent of the bylaws? Number 4, I believe that you will not find another application that is more remotely removed from the purpose and intent of our bylaws. As such, the application has not met any of the standards required in our zoning bylaws for a variance to be granted. It appears to me that your board, Mr. Chairman, has no choice but to deny this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience care to be heard? What I will do is read into the record the letter from the town planner and also the vote from the planning board, so that all full comments have been recorded. Concerning the town planning letter, the applicant is requesting, of course, a 420 square foot, 80-foot high internally illuminated freestanding sign on Beaver Street at the subject property. The maximum height allowed in such signs in the commercial and industrial zone is 30 feet. The maximum aggregate area of all freestanding signs is 100. No overall signage plan has been submitted to determine the calculations required by section 3.9.2 of the sign size regulations of the zoning bylaw. It is therefore unclear what the number, type, and size of the signs currently exist on the property, including the existing freestanding sign near the Medway Street entrance to the plaza. The proposed sign will exceed the maximum allowable height by signs by 20 feet. The maximum allowed height for buildings in the IB zone is 60 feet. Therefore, I recommend a favorable report be forwarded over to the Zoning Board of Appeals, only if adequate information is provided to properly evaluate the application and its use. The Planning Board on August 11th voted this unfavorable and indicated no hardship or open selves, and may open up others to be asking for the same thing. So with that, if there's no other comments from board members, then, Joe, you have the last word.
Appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity to make our presentation. As I noted in my application, I think that zoning bylaws traditionally in Metro West are antiquated. We have a new generation of commercial development that's going on. A long time ago, and there are probably a couple of members on the board will remember some of the people who got together and talked about what impact Route 495 would have on the town of Milford. I was probably in high school and overheard a conversation at the house next to where I grew up. And one particular gentleman stood amongst a bunch of businessmen in Milford and argued very vociferously that in order to really have the development of commercial property in the town of Milford, that you needed not one but two exits on Route 495. And the ability to have two exits in this town would help it develop its commercial base in a way unlike other towns. And I believe he was right, but we haven't developed that commercial base in the way that other towns have. And I think that what this board has before it tonight is an opportunity to do something that the bylaw does allow you to do, which is to make your considerations based on the safety, health, and welfare of the inhabitants of the town of Milford. And there is no safety hazard from the installation of this sign. The planning board has already shown you that on site plan approval for its location. The sign will not impact the town of Milford in any negative way. It will not derogate from the zoning bylaws because this board has traditionally looked at each and every application as a original application and not said, well, we gave it to X and therefore we'll give it to Y. We didn't come in here tonight talking about the signs that have been approved in the town of Milford that receive variances because they're not our application. Our application is unique, and I believe that's the significant aspect of this particular piece of property in the application. Thank the board for the opportunity, first for allowing us to withdraw the prior application, which was not submitted with as much forethought as this one, and secondly, for the ability to make the presentation that we have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. We'll close the hearing. Pleasure of the board.
I make the motion to approve.
I'll
A
second
motion
it.
by Joe to approve, second by
second.
Mary.
Any discussion?
Any discussion concerning that? Conditions. I have a condition that I'd like to put in, no more than 4 tenant names shall be placed on the pylon that, this particular pylon that has been submitted.
That's fine.
That's fine. John, anything else? With that condition, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Congratulations,
very
good
much.
luck.
Appreciate it.
Welcome to Milford. We
Thank you
appreciate
very much.
all your work.
Listen, and we want to know the names of those as soon as you can, okay? I want to call.
All right. Thank you.
I'm taking Olive
Thank you
Garden,
very much.
please.
Big Facebook discussions about that.
Thank you. With that, I take
wanted
a motion
Olive
for
Garden.
adjournment. You have a motion for adjournment by Mary?
I'm making a motion to
Second by
adjourn.
Dave.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye. Okay, the
That's
meeting's
unanimous.
adjourned.
Thank you very much for joining the ZBA hearing tonight. Everyone have a great night. Thank you.